At the time, I was living alone. Nothing unusual about that. I enjoyed the quiet. I liked knowing every sound in my house, every creak in the floor, every random noise that came with old walls and late nights. That's why I noticed immediately when the sound started changing. It wasn't sudden. That's important. It didn't start with something dramatic. It began with small disruptions, things just different enough to notice, but easy enough to explain away. I started waking up at night. Not randomly, not occasionally, every night. At first, I didn't check the time. I just knew my eyes opened at the same point in the night, my heart already racing as if I'd been startled awake by something important. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I checked my phone. 12:41 a.m. I remember thinking it was strange, but not alarming. People wake up at similar times. The body has patterns. That's what I told myself. The next night, it happened again. 12:41 a.m. That's when I started paying attention. I would wake up and lie completely still, listening. The house felt different at that hour, heavier, like the air itself was holding its breath. At first, there were only distant noises, a faint shifting sound, a soft tap somewhere beyond my room. I convinced myself it was the building settling, but then the noises started reacting to me. If I rolled over, they stopped. If I stayed still, they continued. That realization made my stomach drop. One night, while fully awake, I heard breathing. Not rushed, not shaky, slow, controlled, close. It wasn't coming from my chest. I counted my breaths silently just to be sure. The sound continued at a different rhythm, steady and patient. I stared at the darkness, too afraid to reach for my phone, too afraid to confirm what my body already knew, that I wasn't alone. After several minutes, the breathing stopped. No footsteps, no door, just silence. The next morning, I told myself it was my imagination, lack of sleep, anxiety, anything but the alternative. I believed that explanation for exactly one day. The following night, I didn't even fall asleep properly. I lay in bed, scrolling on my phone, waiting for the moment my body seemed to anticipate on its own. At 12:41 a.m., the hallway light turned on. No flicker, no power surge. Just on. I froze. I live alone. Then came footsteps. Not rushed, not heavy, measured. Each step landed deliberately, as if whoever was walking knew exactly where they were going. They stopped right outside my door. I stared at the handle. It moved. Just slightly. Testing. Then I heard my name, spoken calmly, in my own voice. Not whispered, not shouted. Exactly the way I sound when I talk to myself. That was the moment panic finally took over. I slid off the bed, pressed myself against the wall, covering my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. The handle stopped moving. The footsteps walked away. The hallway light turned off. I stayed awake until morning. In daylight, everything looked normal. That's what made it worse. No signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no proof I could point to. Except one thing, there were faint scratches around the lock on my bedroom door. Thin, careful, like someone had been trying not to leave marks. I should have left that day. I didn't. Over the next week, things escalated. Doors I knew I had closed were slightly open. Objects weren't where I left them. The feeling of being watched followed me from room to room. Then came the call. At 12:41 a.m., a missed call from my own number. The call duration showed over a minute. I stared at my phone, waiting for it to disappear, waiting for my brain to correct itself. It didn't. I never called myself. That was the night I packed a bag and left. I moved, changed cities, changed routines. I thought distance would end it. It didn't. I still wake up at 12:41, and sometimes in that half-awake state, I hear breathing again, close enough to feel. I don't know what it was. I don't pretend to understand it. I only know this wasn't a dream, and it wasn't stress. If you're listening to this, please understand, I'm not asking you to be afraid. I'm asking you to trust yourself. If something feels wrong, don't wait for proof. And if you ever hear your own voice calling your name when you know you're alone, do not answer. This happened a few years ago when I moved into a small rented house just outside the city. It wasn't isolated, but it wasn't busy either. Quiet streets, neighbors who minded their own business. The kind of place that feels safe because nothing ever seems to happen there. The house itself was old but well-maintained. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a storage room near the back, and an attic space I never really paid attention to. I liked the place immediately. It felt calm, familiar, normal. For the first month, nothing felt wrong. Then small things started happening. At first, it was easy to blame myself. A spoon missing from the drawer, a cup in the sink that I didn't remember using, shoes not exactly where I'd left them. I told myself I was tired, busy, distracted. Everyone misremembers things. But after a while, the pattern became hard to ignore. Things didn't just disappear. They moved. I would leave my notebook on the table and find it on the couch. I'd lock the bathroom window and later notice it slightly open. I'd come home to lights being off that I was certain I'd left on. I started double-checking everything. I took photos on my phone before leaving the house, just to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my memory. That's when the sound started. At night, usually after midnight, I'd hear faint movement. Not footsteps. More like shifting weight. A slow scrape. A dull thump that didn't repeat. Whenever I turned on a light, the sound stopped. I told myself it was the house settling. Old buildings make noise. That explanation worked. Until the night I heard the shower. I was fully awake, lying in bed, scrolling through my phone. It was quiet enough that I could hear my own breathing. Then suddenly I heard water running. Not a tap. The shower. I sat up immediately. The sound was clear and steady. Water hitting tiles. The faint echo that only comes from a bathroom. My first thought was that I'd left it on earlier, but that didn't make sense. I hadn't used the bathroom in hours. I got out of bed slowly and walked down the hallway. The bathroom door was open. The light was on, but the shower was off. The floor was dry. The mirror wasn't fogged. There was no steam, no warmth, nothing that matched what I'd just heard. I stood there for a long time, trying to calm myself down. Eventually, I turned off the light, closed the door, and went back to bed. I didn't sleep much that night. From then on, the feeling of being watched became constant. Not sudden fear, not panic, just a quiet awareness. I began locking my bedroom door at night, something I'd never done before. A few nights later, I woke up to pressure against the door. It wasn't a loud bang. It wasn't someone trying to break in. It felt like someone leaning their weight against it. The handle didn't move. The door didn't shake violently. It was almost gentle. I sat up in bed, holding my breath, staring at the door. After several seconds, the pressure stopped. In the morning, I noticed muddy footprints near the back entrance. They didn't lead out. They led in. I checked all the locks. Everything was secure. I called the landlord. He told me no one else had keys and suggested I change the locks if it made me feel safer. I did exactly that. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then the noises moved inside the walls. Scraping, slow movement, something shifting above the ceiling. I convinced myself it had to be an animal. Rats, cats, anything logical. That belief shattered the night I heard coughing. It was quiet, human, muffled, and it came from behind the wall near the storage room. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I searched the house more thoroughly than I ever had before. I opened every cabinet, every closet. I checked the attic access. That's when I noticed something strange about the storage room. One wall didn't sound solid. When I knocked on it, the sound was hollow. I pressed against it. The panel moved. Behind it was a narrow space I never knew existed. just wide enough for a person to stand sideways. No lights, no ventilation. Inside were blankets, empty bottles, food wrappers. Someone had been living there. Inside my house. I felt sick. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I stepped back, and that's when I heard breathing behind me. Slow, calm, close. I ran. I didn't pack. I didn't lock the door. I just ran out of the house and kept going until I reached the main road. I called the police. They searched the house. They didn't find anyone. They told me the space looked abandoned, but they did find a notebook. Inside were dates, times, notes, my routine. When I left, when I returned, when the lights went off. The last entry was from the night before. It said, "Almost seen." I never went back. Even now, I triple-check locks. I notice every sound, every shift in air. And I'm telling you this for one reason only. If your home starts to feel occupied when you're alone, if things move without explanation, if sounds don't match what you see, don't ignore it. Sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't something supernatural. Sometimes it's knowing someone was closer to you than you ever realized.